Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of our new podcast series, The Lawful Exchange, the Alumni Edition. Today, I'm with three of my most amazing alumni. We are going to discover their journey. We are going to talk about how they worked in their uh, college life, how they transcended to the professional life, the skills they learned, the challenges they faced uh, during this time. So, before we move ahead, let me introduce our panelists for today. So, starting with Priyanka, could you tell us something about yourself, your work?
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, sir. I'm Priyanka Quatra and I'm a practicing advocate here in Bangalore. I graduated from Alliance in the year 2020 and I have around 4.5 years of experience in the industry. I worked for a couple of corporates and law firms in the past. I currently have gone independent and the name of my law firm is called as Quatra and Associates. A couple of areas that we work on are primarily in corporate laws, IT. We have a lot of startups who come to us. We've had Bollywood singers, politicians, journalists who consult us from time to time. And civil family divorce is also something we work on along with media and entertainment laws. Because I'm a passionate entrepreneur as well, I've been a co-founder of a startup which is a medtech for almost 5 years, which goes by the name Manyog Healthcare. And our primary service was mental health. Apart from this, when I have the time, I do a lot of guest speaking, a little bit of lecturing, and I go to various law schools to judge various national level competitions such as moot courts, debates, so on.
Thank you so much for being here, Priyanka. Now, moving on to our next panelist, Yashmita, could you introduce yourself to our viewers?
Thank you so much for having me here, sir. So a bit about me, unlike my seniors here, I transitioned completely from the legal field to doing something in the creative field. I started my journey as a freelancer during the COVID period. That was during my third or fourth year of law school. And eventually, what began as freelance writing, I kept upskilling myself, learned a bit about personal branding, started providing services for people to build their brand on LinkedIn, and eventually, have ghostwritten for various books, and I've written for a lot of websites, blogs, and I've also helped with a lot of brands building their marketing on digital platforms. And eventually, I'm a freelancer turned entrepreneur. I co-founded this venture called Vritti a year back, where we are trying to bridge the gap between knowledge of years to today through various events that we have been organizing. And also a few months back, I founded another venture called Wanderlore, where we are trying to build the biggest collaborative community of travelers, travel businesses, and enthusiasts alike. But the main vision of Wanderlore remains that we want to showcase the true essence of what India is really as a tourist destination. So we're trying to achieve that with various blogs and a lot of content revolving documentaries, filmmaking, and everything. So apart that, I have also been mentoring a lot of people who want to grow as freelancers and also pursue their career in travel writing per se. And yeah, that's pretty much is about me.
Thank you so much, Yashmita. We are going to explore more on that.
Yes.
Moving on to the next panelist, we have Bhumika. Bhumika, please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Hi, I'm Bhumika. I'm an advocate. Currently, I'm practicing corporate litigation. I graduated from Alliance in 2021, after which I got my first job through campus placement. And like Yashmita, I also graduated during COVID. It was a little bit of difficult time, but with help from college, I was able to get a good job. And in my first job, I was mainly working with employment laws with MNCs, and it was a job of advisory nature. And in my next job, I moved on to corporate litigation. And currently, I'm practicing in NCLT, where we deal with different matters like bankruptcy, mergers and acquisitions. So it's a varied area. And currently, that's what I'm pursuing and I'm enjoying it. Thank you for having me here, sir.
So now let me move to the first question that I want to pose to all of you. And it's something that a lot of our students, especially who are still in school, would be thinking about when they're making their career choices. I want to know what made you choose law? How did you stumble upon it? How did you think that this is something that you want to pursue? So starting with you, Priyanka.
So I think that's a great question because I'm going to be very honest about it. I never thought I could pursue a serious profession like law, considering it's a 5-year course and it requires some sort of dedication and consistency. So I come from a business background. So I think the seed was always planted in my head that you're going to join the business. And I just was never interested. And I somehow after 12th, because I was a commerce student, I had no idea what to do. But I was interested in medicine. But people thought I wouldn't be able to pursue it because, there's this whole norm around you being too smart to pursue it. And somebody just told me that there is CLAT coaching. And because I couldn't figure out anything else that I wanted to do, I realized that this is something that let's just try going for the coaching and then figure it out. And I think the 2 years of coaching kind of made me fall in love with the subjects that we had. And everyone's always told me I'm a good orator, I'm good at speaking, and I think I personally like arguing too. So that kind of pushed me, and I thought that my personality would fit into this profession. And I think I accidentally got enrolled in it, and I wanted to go outside and pursue law. I had applied to the UK, but my family thought I was too young to travel alone. And I found Alliance, and that's how I got into law.
All right. You guys want to mention Yashmita, Bhumika?
I'm not really sure because I think it happened by chance where I heard about this course called BBA LLB Honors, and then later I was like hell-bent that that's the course I would want to do because you get a bit of business knowledge along with legal knowledge. And I think on a long run, if you're looking at starting something of your own, both of the knowledge combined could be a great asset to your growth. So I was pretty hell-bent, and that's also the reason why I was only looking at universities which offers BBA LLB honors only. So I didn't really look at most of the national law schools because they didn't really have BBA LLB honors back then when I was enrolling. So yeah, I think I was pretty sure that this was the only course I would have wanted to do from 10th standard. So I don't know how did that happen, as to how did that come into my head that this is what you're supposed to be doing back then.
Divine intervention, perhaps.
Yes.
And to be frank, so I was in an ICSE school and I was doing well. So the natural course of career for me, since I was getting good grades, was science and engineering. So after my 10th, I went into science. I took my PCMC, computers and science. And so during all this, while I was studying other subjects, I always had a great interest in how the system works, basically. And I had this habit of watching news every day with my dad at night and watching all the debates. And I would find it to be very interesting. And I still didn't understand really about all these people talking, the changes happening, problems. But I wanted to know what's happening, as in the backbone of the system, the background of what's happening. But though I had that in the back of my mind, I never thought I should do something, career-wise in it. And till my 12th, I wanted to get into IIT, so I took my JEE coaching, JEE advanced coaching. And on the day of my exam, the morning, I had an epiphany where I said, no, this is not what I want. This is not what I'm interested in. Or maybe I was just trying to get away from the exam. I don't know. But after that, I started reading about law. I didn't have much time for CLAT, so I just prepared at home. And I was also looking at other options in Bangalore. That's where I found out. So Alliance was one of the top colleges in law in Bangalore at that time. And I also applied here. And once I visited the campus, interacted with professors, we had the orientation. Yes, and that's how I landed up studying law in Alliance. And it has been a very interesting subject, and I'm glad I took that decision.
So I think usually when you're a first generation lawyer, nobody in your family, wants to accept or even takes you seriously when you say you want to pursue law. Like in my case, everybody thought I was just joking around and, because it's such a serious profession. And half the other crowd has a very different mentality about lawyers, which is not very good. So I think that needs to be changed. And I think with my family, they were like very clear, you're not going to do business with us. So my father wanted me to have a very secure career. So he wanted me to be a CA. I did write the exam and I cleared that. And I wasn't expecting. So my options were really less now because they were sure that this is the direction you're going to go. But then somehow I managed to get into this, and I think even then my family was so sure that I'm going to drop out after a year, which didn't happen every year.
And that also reminds me when she was talking about looking at what and all is happening around us. I think the biggest motivating factor for me was that I wanted to bring a change in the society. Like back then, I believed that pursuing law, getting into policy making later eventually would probably help me to raise certain kind of awareness in the society. But yeah, it's a long shot, but I'm still hopeful.
On a lighter note, how many TV series, how many film lawyers, how many Tariq pe Tariq did inspire you to take up law?
And not much, to be very honest. I think I learned about suits after I joined college. So a lot of people were talking about how they got into law school because they saw suits and they were like pretty.
I think for me, I used to watch Aapki Adalat with my father a lot, but I knew it's not like this. And I think a lot of politicians giving speech really attracted me because for some reason, I would think I'm going to be there one day and give a speech. So I think law was the closest that I could do in the courtroom.
And very well, you're on the way to that as well. All right. Next, I want to talk to you about your journey at Alliance and how that changed the person that you were and what you became. What are the things that you did at Alliance, your academics, your other activities, the skills that you learned here, and how that has transformed you as a professional, as a person? So, starting with Yashmita, since you have taken the most different route than creative route.
Yes. So I think first thing is when I have to talk about the kind of skills that I've acquired during classes is even curation and execution. I mean, for a lot of people, I don't know if they're given the opportunity, but during law school, I think we had a lot of opportunity to come up with our own ideas of the kind of events that we wanted to host in the college and execute it the way we wanted. And we had like complete support to do that. And I think that's where I fell in love with organizing events and hosting different kind of talks and shows and everything, and which is eventually what I'm still doing currently, that is conceptualizing different events that can be of a certain purpose. So I think one is that, and another is discipline, because law school teaches you discipline like no other school does. You be on time for your classes or you're out, you be on time for moot court or you're not going to participate. So I think discipline is also another thing that you learn, and especially when you're a freelancer, there is nobody who's going to, ask you or hold you accountable. You need to keep holding yourself accountable and you need to be getting your tasks done. And yeah, so I think for a freelancer, discipline is important. So I think law school was another skill that it taught me. And another skill is research. I think for a law student, you need to be able to go one step ahead and research to corroborate anything that you stand or you have to talk about. So when it comes to my writing as well, and I think that's where I've developed the research skills as well, to go a bit more deeper into understanding a certain concept that I'm talking about or writing about. So I think majorly these are the three main skills that I've equipped during my law school that is still very prevalent to what I'm doing today.
So I think for me, I would say a lot to do with public speaking. I remember being very reserved in class. Sometimes to shy away, I would sit in the back. And I think professors would sometimes notice, like for yourself, that I was always trying to hide myself. So I would be asked to come in front. And at that time, as a student, you don't realize why. And even talking during presentations, I used to, no matter how much I would prepare, I would always be nervous to go in front of my class and speak. But the kind of push and motivation I've received, I think is the reason I'm here talking. Because I've been going to lectures, teaching other students, judging, and I think I thoroughly enjoy it. And this is something I didn't know and realize back in the day. That is one thing. And the other thing is research, like she mentioned, and other skills as well. I think Alliance at my time as well, we had a lot of collaborations with other people and other courses. So every time we thought we would lack, we would get the opportunity to do these certificate courses. In my time, I did a lot of content writing. So obviously it involved a lot of research. I remember writing judicial course materials for other people just in second year. I think that's how my writing skills really enhanced. And the other, I think, which is very, very good, is we had something called as seminar papers. And I realized a lot of law schools don't have this concept. It's like a mini dissertation. So once you're in masters, you have it. But I think in our final years, we had the option to present this before an expert panel who throughoutly judged us, gave us really good critics. And the way we researched, wrote our paper, our language, everything was evaluated with Bleak. And I think that stands out in Alliance the most. And till date, and in fact, when I pursued my master's at Jindal, I think I had a better knack of it for my dissertation than a lot of other students because they have never done this before. So I think whatever skills I got the opportunity to acquire in Alliance really helped me out.
There's something that I would like to add as well, that as faculty members, as the people who are working in this, the one thing which even we are motivated to do a lot of, teach a lot of, ensure that it is the backbone, the foundation of the courses that are delivered. The research remains there. The research remains the foundational idea, because we understand that as professionals, you are going to solve problems of people. That is how you create value for yourself. And when you create value, when you want to solve problems, the first thing that you need to know is how to do research. All right, Bhumika, coming to you, how was your journey? You have been an expert mooter during the college. You have been involved in a lot of other activities as well. So how has that changed you as a professional, as a person?
So like my peers said, research and giving presentations was a big part of the curriculum, which we would do every semester for all the subjects. That gives you confidence in public speaking, polishes your skills of research, lets you also use different legal databases, which is very important, and that's one of the main ways to save time even today while we are drafting and presenting cases and all of that. So that was a very important aspect, and mooting was, I could say, the best part of my journey here in Alliance. I was able to participate in a number of moot competitions. So in moots, firstly, like again, research is very important, but along with the research, it teaches you how to analyze the problem, apply the law in a much detailed level as compared to what we do in the classroom. And then it comes to speaking skills, where you're timed. You're supposed to put across all your points, all your arguments in a given period of time. Also teaches teamwork, because today when I'm working with my colleagues, where they have different perspectives as to how to navigate and get everyone on the same plate and eventually get the work done, which is the most important part. So what I have learned during moots is teamwork, speaking to your peers, having open, good discussions with them. And so all these have helped me make my way even in my career today, helps me talk to my clients as well. And yes, so these are some of the good things. And along with this, we would get a lot of coaching from our professors, and these, along with our subjective advice, it was also more about interpersonal and soft skills, which is very important. They would train us on how to interact with the judges in the competitions, interact with the management, the college management that's hosting the competition, or our other competitors who have come there. So these skills also have helped me come a long way in my professional career, because it translates onto the actual realities of life. And I'm very, very happy that I was able to learn all of this in my college.
I think one more thing I would like to add on is also persuasive skills, because when you're when you're in a field like marketing, you need to be confident enough, or you should have the skills enough to convince another person that this is where we are supposed to be going, or this is what we are supposed to be doing, because you're most of the time dealing with somebody who's not really up to date with the trends in the industry. So you need to be able to convince them that this is what is best for their brand or for building their business. So I think being in the law school or participating in a lot of moot courts also helps you develop your persuasive skills.
So there's another thing I would like to add on after what my peers said. It's everybody comes to a college to obviously get a degree. Like students nowadays are just focusing more on I want my degree and my attendance. And nobody is thinking about how the real world is going to treat you, because it's not the same. And there's a limitation up to what a college can offer you. But I think during my time that I remember in Alliance, which is already 4 years back, we had a lot more that other colleges were offering. For example, technology. A lot of other colleges that I know, because I've been interviewing students now, and I see that they're all using pen and paper for assignments. The old school. And I'm not saying it's bad, but we are booming, technology is also booming. And I think the usage of laptop, at least for the basic tools that you know, is very important. Obviously, like we had SCC, Manupatra Access in college, but our professors focused more on how we would draft something online. Even Excel sheets, for example, you go into a corporate and this is something they really focus on. But people nowadays don't even know how to use basic Excel sheets. And I think in Alliance, we were constantly taught the importance of this, so that even if we can't have more of it, more of learning in the college, we could at least understand that we can pursue these courses. And we had a lot of collaborations with colleges who were offering this. So I think for me, it was much easier because when I graduated and got my corporate job, and it was an American company, and they don't really care about why you don't know. They just want to know if you can have the basic skills that it takes, and that's a part of your interview. In fact, my first interview was an assignment on Excel. So imagine if I didn't even know how to use it, I don't think I would crack it, even though I had understanding of law. So that is one thing. And second thing is networking. I think nobody talks about this, although public speaking is something we all have spoken about. Networking is very important. You have to make good contacts during internships, and you have to make sure that you can use these during finding a job. We had the CAN office who was always trying to be in touch with us for our CV, help us prepare for interviews. But then you also have to make an effort and attempt. And I think our professors were also so nice that they would help us with their contacts. And I think otherwise also when you're outside, you have to do your own networking to find your clients. But if you're not going to speak out, you know, like you're walking in the court and you're not saying hello to everybody, how are you going to move? So I think these are small things that normal colleges are not focusing on, considering the interviews I've been taking. But 4 years ago as well, I remember my professors telling us the importance of it, and I'm very thankful because I understand, and that's why I'm here.
I mean, I completely agree with her because no matter what, networking is the key to growth. And I still believe that, you know, the exposure we had to other faculties, like visiting professors coming to the college, or like, you know, even during internships, even trying to manage that relationship with the people you were working with, they would come a long way with you. And if you need anything, they would be willing to help you if you're in a good relationship with them. So, I mean, that reminds me how one of the advocates that I used to intern with before, she ended up like, you know, reaching out to me very recently, how she needed help with like, you know, digital marketing, her firm and things like that. So I think networking and staying in touch with people and letting them know what you are doing with your life today, and also constantly, you know, keeping in touch with them and trying to understand what they are also up to will help you go a long way.
And I would just like to add that in Alliance, one more good thing was we had very interesting subjects. We had space law, air law, sports law, and back then it didn't seem, as a student, it didn't seem something very relevant to me or something that I could pursue a whole career in, but given after 3-4 years, these have actually becoming the booming new fields of law. And since I have had the opportunity to read and study them in my college, they're not alien to me at least. It's something that if I choose to, or if somebody who has studied those in Alliance or they've had exposure to, they can still do self-study and pursue them as careers in themselves. So that's a very, very important aspect that Alliance ensured that all the new niche fields were introduced to students. And also during COVID, since we were all studying from home, we were doing our assignments from home, Alliance offered this online training or courses sessions from Coursera. So they were very interesting certification courses that we could do. It included courses in negotiation, it included courses in music law, and so that again was a value addition to our careers and our CVs. That's even accounts, which is even important today. So I think that was a very good advantage that we got from the university.
On that point, I'm actually happy to inform update you on that we've included more subjects which are what we call subjects of the future. We have named them as ability enhancement courses, where the laws may not be there, or may not be as established, may not be as much codified as other laws are there. But we give the general jurisprudential idea as to ensure that when the laws do come into existence, or when the law making process itself comes into public discussion, they are part of that discussion, they are leaders of that discussion. So subjects on Internet of Things, subjects on metaverse, subjects on
That's amazing.
national security
Maybe
law.
you should host certificate courses so that we could all come back and join.
Definitely.
Probably that's in pipelines as well. All right. Moving on to the next part, I want to discuss your transition from a law student to a legal professional, or rather professional, because all of you have carved such niche paths for yourself. Again, the second thing I want to follow it up on with, that is, what are the challenges that you faced and how did you tackle them? So if you could.
So about challenges, I think the path that I carved for myself is not something that I have seen anybody in my network do. So I didn't really have somebody to look up to, or call them my mentor who could guide me as to what is that I'm supposed to be doing, or how is it that to go forward with. So even freelancing just happened to me by chance. During COVID, I was really bored and I didn't know what to do. So within my network, if somebody told that, there was certain kind of work and they would pay on project basis and everything, I would just randomly take it up just so I could keep upskilling myself and learn more things. So eventually I learned that there's something called as freelancing, where you can just work on project basis and give your services and they would pay you on project basis. So all this while, at the back of my head, all I just wanted to do was travel and explore India. So it was during third year of my college again that I kind of got introduced to a lot of things that was relevant to Indian folk culture, and that's when I started documenting them, writing about them, and that was a bigger passion where I wanted to write and document it. So for that, I had to be traveling and exploring places. So I think freelancing was seemed like a much better option, where I could just earn money and spend it on traveling and serves both my purposes. So I got introduced to freelancing that way. And eventually, I kept upskilling myself. What I started with, providing writing services. And you can't just be stagnant in your profession. You need to keep upskilling yourself daily and go along with the trend, because you live in a society where if you're not adapting yourself to what is really trending and what is really booming, you're going to see a full stop for yourself in the career. So I ended up learning more about digital marketing, and I kind of figured, since I'm more of a writing person, so I felt I could help people with building their LinkedIn profiles, their branding on LinkedIn, much better than what I could help with them when it comes to videos and content. So I started providing my services as helping them with personal branding on LinkedIn. Eventually, I had a lot of projects where people wanted me to ghostwrite for them. I didn't really know there was a thing where you ghostwrite for people for their books and everything. Pays really well again, so that was another thing I upskilled myself with. And eventually, all this while I was traveling, I was documenting Indian folk culture, and today I think after a good 3-4 years is when I kind of niched it completely down to focusing on travel, tourism and hospitality industry. And that's why we also started Wanderlore, where we want to change how India's tourism is today, because although we see it booming, Indian tourism has a lot of scope to grow today. And there's a lot of different opportunities that is available. People are really not aware of it. Yes, you see Instagram trends, you see a lot of travel reels, and you think that's the only profession we have. That's the only thing you can do if you want to travel all the time. But we want to let people know that there's more to it. There's much more that you can do and everything. So I think all the while, what has really helped me stay relevant in the society is upscaling myself over time.
So, sir, like I said, I graduated during COVID, and I had no clue how to go about it, how to apply, because there was this whole thing where they had stopped hiring people. Everything was almost at a standstill. So CAN office was really helpful, from sending us templates on how to frame our CVs.
Okay, just a second for the viewers of this podcast, I want to inform them that CAN office stands for Career Advancement and Networking Office, which is one of the offices in the university which helps the students network, which helps the student get their jobs, get interviews, and helps them even after the graduation, most of the times, navigating through the careers, right from CV building to the interview preparation. So it's a wholesome facility which is there. So
I mean, honestly, I would give it to them because they still keep in touch and want to know what exactly you're doing with your life, and that's a very nice thing, to be very honest. I don't see that happening with a lot of friends of mine, and they're like, oh, you're just still in touch with your college? Yes, I am.
And they send regular updates also, even now, when there's any opening and with firms that they're in contact with. So we do get some email updates and about opportunities for students who are maybe even working already, but who are looking to upscale or change their job. So it's really helpful that way. Coming back to where I started, so I was able to get my first job. So it was this firm where the nature of work was mainly advisory, and we would advise multiple MNCs on how to deal with their employment issues. It could be retrenchment, hiring, appointment letters, and especially with COVID setting in, there were a lot of new guidelines that were being issued by the government, which the companies had to comply with, employees had to comply with. So I have worked majorly in respect to that. Also, there was this whole new concept of work from home and hybrid work, and I have worked on company policies where they were framing work from home policies or hybrid policies. So from there on, though it was a very good place to start from, I have always had my interest in litigation, and I wanted to move on to something more closer to that, and that's how I got my next job in corporate litigation. So I got since I had experience working with companies, and litigation was something that I wanted to transition into. So I thought corporate litigation would be a good way to get into this. And so currently now I work with different companies where I have to interact with multiple teams. So in my first job, where I would work with employment laws, I would mostly interact with HR teams and their in-house legal counsel, where I had to coordinate. And the most difficult part in my first job was to explain law in layman terms to different teams of the companies and make sure they understand and carry forward the advice you do and implement it in the way that it has to be done. In my second job now, I have to interact with the finance team, the HR team, the management, and their in-house legal team, so which is a little more intense. And especially since it's matters of mergers and acquisitions, there's a lot of push from the client's side about timelines. And at the same time, there's a lot of delay when it comes to some of our legal machinery. So handling all of this has its challenges, but at the same time, it keeps you on your toes. You have to know how to manage people, make sure that everybody is happy, but at the same time that the work keeps going ahead. This is something. And another a very small skill which has given me advantage over the years is knowing the local language. I know it's an unfair advantage since I've been born and brought up here in Bangalore, but it would be good for everyone to learn the basic aspects of the language, because even now, though the judiciary has changed, we have progressed where the judges speak in English, where everybody converses in English, but it also gives you a small minor advantage where you're filing your paperwork, interacting with the staff in the court, finding your way through the court. So this is how I have been going on and about. And
that is something, yes, we did discuss in a lot of things, where the language is not a barrier, but it's something that opens your opportunities in a new market. So it's not just about being in Bangalore. Let's say if I want to do a business in Spain, or a lot of people from, let's say, Germany who want to invest in India, they'll be more comfortable with people who can understand the language.
Personal touch.
It gives a personal touch. And on that front also, I have something to inform you that we have about 5 courses on offer. So We have Hindi, English, we have French, German.
Oh, wow.
That's wonderful, sir.
So what we do is, that's the idea behind allowing students to learn a new language, because what it does, it opens a new market for you.
I mean, more than market, I think even in general society today, if you're not able to communicate with another person or at least feel comfortable. I mean, people are not expecting you to learn the language completely. They just expect you to know a little so that, they could call you one amongst them. Yes. So I think that has been really helpful with me, where I try to adapt to every region that I am at so that, they can get me involved in their culture, introduce their culture to me. And I think that also helps you grow as a person. You somehow equip certain, not really skills, but certain behavior of theirs, which is pretty good, that always remains with you.
That allows you to integrate with the
Yes.
society where you're working. So that's very true. Right. So Priyanka, even your journey, and that has been the most fascinating journey, jumping from one place, one challenge to other, taking all the challenges head on, being successful there as well. How did that transition happen? And you were probably the first hit batch of COVID, because that was a
Yes.
challenge among themselves. When you graduated,
That is correct.
that is where the first
Yes,
lockdown happened.
that is correct.
So how do you take on those challenges?
So there's one thing, I think lawyers can do anything. And with time, I think I realized this more. I passed out in 2020 and COVID hit immediately. And honestly, no matter how prepared I was for the real world, or I had a list of jobs I wanted to acquire, but COVID had changed things. The market was so down that nobody was operating, especially law firms. And I was so lost. I know my struggles. And mental health was, I think, everywhere. And somebody who's been diagnosed with this for a couple of years, luckily, I was not in the phase where I needed help, but I saw a lot of my peers, a lot of my colleagues, everybody facing this. And I was just sure that there's something I want to do and provide back to the society. Because there were no jobs in the market, I think I had more time to think on this. And I had no intention of making anything in return from this. And that's how my first startup, Maniyog, was born. We had a community of 60, 80 people all over the country. We had no plan, but everybody was clear that we want to provide back something and save people's lives. And we have some remarkable stories from my startup where people have recovered, people have been saved, and they still come back to us. We've had students from Alliance itself who've been a part in the legal team, and some very good names who are still with me. And although I'm a lawyer now full-time, people still know me as a mental health advocate, and I've given a lot of talks on this to different corporates, and I'm very happy I could do that. Now, coming back to the law aspect of it, I did my first job with a senior in Bangalore called as H.V. Harish. Sir taught us one thing, that you never say no to a client. I was in an office of only much experienced men, and I was finding it hard to make my place, because I just thought gender gap was there, but actually it wasn't. No matter how much we think, there are officers and seniors who make sure it's not there, and they treat everyone as equals. I was taught all the ground level work, and I think I learned quite a bit there. And because of that, I had clients coming to me just after graduation. And just like Yashmita mentioned, you have projects and people know how you can be a part of various subjects in law. I think my clientele started coming from there. People would reach out to me because of my networking skills. I would draft contracts for them time to time along with where I was working. And I think my circle just increased. And I'm somebody who is very outgoing. And I definitely like exploring places, traveling. And, Bangalore is a place where there are a lot of happening clubs and good F&B industries. So because I'm so passionate about this, it opened doors for me to connect with these people and these owners. And that's how entertainment and media laws came into the picture. And I've worked with some really good names in the industry, and some artists in Bollywood have become my friends now. They would always ring me up for advice on vetting their contracts. I have been a part of I won't name it, but I've been a part of a very renowned music school in India who teaches DJing and also provide DJs all over India to the best clubs and the best 5-star hotels. And my task with them was to make sure that I execute their school properly, have everything legal, non-legal in place. There were 80 people there and one of me trying to make sure I can take all of them and tell them the importance of legal, because people think of it as a luxury or something which is not needed until they're in a problem. So I would often go meet them, do their contracts, take awareness sessions with them to tell them why this is important and you have to pay for it. And then I was also the CEO to a legal tech startup called as India Advocacy here in India. And I think I was their youngest CEO. I didn't think I could be a CEO at all. And this is before my startup. So we had IIM professors who were constantly teaching me behind my work hours. And I think they did everything to leverage me and put me into the picture, because the founders were not lawyers. So my challenge was to connect with different people and make sure that I'm going to execute this startup and give them what they want. And I think I did that. And then I worked for a lot of American companies. This company called as Avasant, where I spent a lot of my time. We did a lot of different things, and that's why I said lawyers can do everything. When other teams cannot figure out what to do, it always comes to you. And I have been part of some very, very good projects where I have done compliances that CAs and CA people can do. I've done company name changes for American entities. And I've done some really cool things that I think a lot of other lawyers in my team couldn't do. So I'm very happy about that as well. And finally, when I thought it's the time, I had a decent set of clients. And I took the call of starting my own law firm. Of course, it comes with its own challenges, because all this time I was told that you're too young. You know, there is this whole norm around being a first-generation lawyer, and also because the industry is so male-dominating, they think you're not ready. So here is the part where I think mentorship is very important. And I have a mentor, and I've had him for a while, who's been guiding me. And I think he's the biggest hand behind when and how I could start my firm, because he told me that, Priyanka, you'll never be ready. The society changes and the law is made for them. And you keep updating yourself with time. So even after the 10 years, I will still think I'm not ready. And what happens if it doesn't work out? And I can always do this again. So I think it does have its own challenges, because it doesn't always rain clients. Yes. But I think the idea is to be consistent and keep going on. And the other challenge I would also like to mention is about when I mentioned people don't understand the importance of legal. And also because they know you're not a typical advocate or lawyer who sits in chambers. They try to take you on a ride. So I struggle a lot with pending payments from my clients. The negotiation comes here and people don't want to pay you at all. So I think this is always there, but as long as you stand your ground and they like your work, it'll always come.
I think about pending payments and how important legality is. Freelancing as a career is so unstructured right now in the country that nobody really takes you seriously. So if you are a freelancer, unless you really have a very strong agreement with them, with your clients, they can take you for a ride, and they would probably just ghost you after a while of them not respond to your messages, nothing. They just take your help with whatever that is needed and not show up after that. So you have done your part, but you won't ever receive that payment from them.
So I can give you instances where one of my clients is a renounced politician and my invoice was so small. And when I do understand that you take prior payments, but you also have to make your relation with them, because you know.
Exactly.
And when the time of payment had to come, when I reminded him for the third time, he actually threatened me. And just because you're a politician and for a small amount.
So that's a challenge in advocacy any which way. And not just that, letting people know that your services have, it comes at a cost. Your expertise comes at a cost. There's not a friend ringing up another friend saying that I need this legal advice. That there is a...
Like they say, you never do something you're good at for free.
Very true, very true.
And also, I think one other major challenge is when you're taking on projects, other than the legality part of it, it's also knowing how to position yourself. You don't really know what is it that you're supposed to be charging or how much
Yeah.
is it that you're supposed to be charging when you're initially starting out. And I've heard it from a lot of people around me, like, why are you charging so less? I'm like, I never had somebody to tell me how much I should be charging so that, I am like at the price that what is being paid at the society right now. So I think that's another
But I
challenge.
think
that
no
supposed
price
to
is
be
enough for
tackled.
a client. They'd always want it free.
True,
right?
but there's also the minimum wage that you're supposed to look
Right.
at as a freelancer as well. So that's another challenge that I just recalled of.
Okay, Bhumika, I want to come on this to you as well, that there's a lot of people skill required in practice as well, right? So you need to have that patience, you need to have that empathy to understand what the client wants out of you and provide the services that. So these skills, how did you incorporate these skills? How did you, what do you say, enhance these skills within you so that you are able to do well? Because there's a lot of human element involved in legal practice. So what was your journey in this particular field like?
So I completely agree with you, sir. Human element is very, very crucial in legal practice. So one face of it is dealing with clients. The other side is presenting your case in front of a judge. And even when in clients, I could say that mainly the first kind of clients that I've dealt with is while I'm drafting agreements. They don't have too much of an insight into the legal aspects of what they're doing. So you have to look out for them. You have to take an extra step and let them know of the different possibilities, because multiple times when you could say about probably data protection or protecting their brand or their rights, so especially IPR rights, so there are aspects of it where they wouldn't even have thought about it. So you have to take an extra step when you're drafting agreements for a client who is not very well aware of the legal scenario. And this other kind of clients that I've interacted with is when I'm dealing with hardcore corporate law, where they have their in-house legal team and they know what is going on. They know the subjective aspect of it. But here what becomes important is to inform them about the on-ground reality, the timelines, and how as the case proceeds and moves to different offices, especially in corporate law, when there's an approval of a merger or an amalgamation, it has to get approvals from different branches of government. It could be the registrar of companies, the liquidator. So you have to be able to communicate, coordinate with all the different offices, and at the same time keep your client in loop, keep their in-house legal team involved, and explain to them what's happening on the ground. And sometimes there could be some unforeseen delays, which is a very big deal. When it's a company and there's a delay in their merger, it's a very big deal. So you have to understand on how to relay the information, be patient, and make sure that you explain to them. Don't take anything too offensively. Keep everything professional. So it's very important with respect to clients. And now coming back to in the courtroom, you have to know the expectations of the judge, depending on whether it's NCLT or civil court. You have to know how to conduct yourself to make sure that your case moves on and do what's good for the case. And at the same time, in both when it comes to clients or the courtroom, I would say it's very important for a lawyer to have patience. You'll have to wait sometimes. You have to, suffer delays, undue delays, and you never know when things are going to start up again. So patience is a very, very important aspect of law, being a lawyer. So overall, while summing it up, I would say you have to have soft skills and interpersonal skills. Know how to connect with people, how to be able to put across your perspective, your message to people in a way that's not hostile, but firm, and so that they understand and get your point. So it's a very, very important skill.
I mean, you need to be really empathetic towards another person when you're dealing with them.
True.
Moving on to the next part, I want to discuss now for the benefit of the students who will be joining a law course in the year, let's say 2025, they'll be graduating in the year 2030. The world is not going to be the same place. So in that direction, there are new things that have become buzzwords, the blockchain, the AI, the data science, and all of that is impacting the legal practice as well, both in the manner they are being used in the industry and the challenges that they are creating for law as such. So in terms of that, I want to know from your experience so far, what do you feel that these are things that the students should be focusing on as they start their legal education, they start their law school journey, how they develop themselves to be able to be future ready in a sense? So I want to know your views on that, starting with you, Priyanka.
I think that's a very good question, sir. I would say one has to learn how to be flexible. With time, you have to learn how to adapt to different changes. And I think once anybody is stepping into this career line, you have to be ready. You are not going to be spoon-fed. There is a reason that the biggest lawyers in the country are big names. They didn't just become big names like that. And we all in the industry look at them. And these are also people that they must look. Of course, technology is booming, times are changing. And I believe that even in, like, I was a 2020 batch. We are 4 years ahead. The batch I know now, people are more updated. People, I think, know how to use social media better than I do. But why are we not focusing on other skills also you need in this profession? Like, I know kids nowadays were very passionate to use technology. And the same way that is being applied into this field. And if you are in this field, you have to keep, like, we update ourselves with laws time to time. This is one thing that I think people often forget. Students forget. It's not just your bare act and it's not just your textbooks to read and theory. It's more than that. Times have changed. AI is taking over. In fact, in my recent talk that I gave at the Google office, sir, it was on AI and law. AI in India, actually, and I focused on a few sectors in India with comparison to other countries. I was talking to an audience of techies who obviously knew better about it than I did. But I realized that there were very basic concepts that they did not know. So I was leading that whole session into more of an awareness session where I was stunned to see that people are not aware about the do's and don'ts and challenges that AI could have. There are pros and cons in every sector, every new field as well. But here, because it's such a blooming topic and hot topic right now, people are only seeing one side of it. And I think in this industry, that whole noise about how AI will replace lawyers and we'll lose our jobs, I don't think that can entirely be done, because in this profession, the human touch is needed. You can't replace it with a judge. But if you're in a corporate, like I previously mentioned, technology, laptops, whatever you have to learn how to use it. Otherwise, you cannot step into this whole field and deep dive. Now that you see corporates, there are tools available that help lawyers make their job easier. They are not taking away your job, but because the work is so vast, I think it's such a great thing. Like, we have CLM tools available, for example, which is the most basic one. And I think keeping yourself updated and being open to adapt and learn. Because I have personally seen people and my colleagues who do not want to adapt at all. In this field, lawyers have to know how to do everything and know it all. Apart from that, anybody who's getting enrolled in law school, even if you're not ready for it, it will teach you. There goes a lot to do with discipline, a lot to do with managing your time, work-life balance, for example. And I believe firmly that you should never say no to an opportunity. I've been having a very, very stressful schedule, I think, but if I get invited to speak somewhere or to judge a competition, I'm always willing to do it. You shouldn't say no. Similarly, you might be loaded with clients. You can't say no. And in college also, when you have rigorous timelines to submit a project, you cannot hold the college accountable that why is the timeline so short. This is the profession, and if you can't do this, how are you going to be prepared for the real world? Because it's much harder there. discipline and consistency is the key. So I think my advice to them is just make sure you're disciplined, and even though you're learning things the old way, learn it. You have to know the ground. You can't just go to a court and expect not to know how to file a case or how to stitch your files. These are very common things, and I think being flexible, adaptable, and serious about what you're doing, and your hard work will always pay off.
On that point, Bhumika, I want to come to a particular question. I want to ask, you have worked with lawyers of different age groups. You have worked with lawyers with about 40 years of experience. You have worked with the freshers who are just joining the law. And then there is mismatch of expectations at times where so the new generation coming out with, again, I'm coming back to watching Suits and thinking that the law profession is, they are going to be like Mike Ross and Harvey Specter, right? So, and then you have this experienced lawyers who have a very set expectations. They are very methodical in their approach towards their practice. So how do you see the law profession itself developing in next few years?
So for law students, if they're planning on getting into litigation right after college, it's a hard reality check. They're going to experience dusty rooms, running around slippery floors, huge case files, and definitely Mike or Harvey Specter are not going to be in a filing room stitching case files, struggling to hold a needle and a thread. But what I would say is that overall, the legal scenario has been adapting. It's developing, especially after COVID. The cause lists are online. Case status is updated online every day. So we could say that the legal system is adapting, but it's still very slow. It needs to move fast, and it will. And what students can do is that they're already tech savvy. They already know how to use different apps, use the internet, but at the same time, they have to also understand that they need to update their other skills, which are the basic backbone of profession. So, which is use of legal databases, use of Excel sheets, and also use of Adobe, which is now with e-filing has become very important, especially in NCLT. When I see we have to e-file cases, the concept of, the digital signature, and also making sure that the PDF and the huge bulky cases that you've updated have page markers for the judges to navigate through. So I believe what students need to do is they have to know, or once they get into the profession and they know what softwares are in use, they have to be open to learning about it, adapting and sharpening their skills. But what I would say is that there are some practices which they have to always keep at, and that is reading case files, reading the new judgments that come out, and they have to do that on a daily basis. It not only doesn't lets them keep up to date with their with the laws and their knowledge, but also helps with their drafting, reasoning skills, and of course, so that forms the basis of their, or what I would say, that could be the driving force with all the other skills. This is something that is very, very important. So there are seniors who are very well in touch with technology, who are updated, and they're okay with you using different softwares to make your life easier. So that's okay. So that is quite smooth working with seniors like that. But there are also seniors who are built in a way where they're used to rather files than using laptops or not using technology. They would rather want you to put your own mind and draft something than try and use technology or borrow something from somewhere. So it's from situation to situation where we need to adapt, because from everyone there is something to learn. And all the seniors that I've worked with have great experience, especially in my current job where I'm a corporate litigator working in my office. My senior has got expansive experience, vast experience. So it's important to be patient, to be humble with your seniors, and to give yourself time to understand their advice and then take it forward. So I believe that that's some of the skills that's important.
And when you're talking about doing your own work without much use of the technology, I often believe that if artificial intelligence has to take away a few jobs, the first jobs they are going to come after are the people who are doing derivative work. It's very difficult, I believe, even for artificial intelligence right now to do original work, which requires human intelligence, which requires the power of learning from the surroundings, right, through our own sensory organs, as we say. So that's now, I often believe that the education is an enabler. And there's a misconception probably in the students where they believe that the education is some way restricting their options. What I mean to say that is, when they do a law degree, they believe that that means these are the set careers that they want to go into, right? And we have always been, what do you say, against this idea. Education is an enabler, which enables you to explore your opportunities. It does not restrict your opportunities. And in terms of that, Yashmina, I want to talk to you on, you have taken a path which was for law students rather less traveled. And then you created a niche for yourself. How do you see from your own growth? Can you tell me that how law schools can prepare you for careers of the future, newer careers which are coming up, probably which will come in 5 years from now?
I'm not sure about the kind of careers that will emerge in the next 5 years, but I think all I can really tell people is not to take law school for granted. Like even the simplest of things, like, you researching and writing your research papers can help you with your writing skills. I think that's where I got my writing skills, or like got to polish my writing skills or like research skills, where I was able to deliver much more better writings than a lot of other people within my circle when it came to the profession that I was in. Because today what really happens in the society is everyone is so hell-bent on using AI for everything, like even for the most basic research, that they don't realize that there is something more to it as well. So when you're writing, the most basic element to it is the emotional and the personal touch you can put to your writing. But with AI, I don't think that is still developed yet. I'm not sure whether that's going to happen or not in the future. But all I can do tell now is you cannot really use your AI writing to probably write a book which is supposed to have a lot of emotional touch and connect with people. So I think that's where the skill of researching and writing really developed for me. That was through law school. So other than that, all I can do tell is, like I said, do not limit yourself during law school, except to doing whatever it is. When I say limit yourself, I'm not just talking about just going to classes, attending classes and coming back. There are a lot of other opportunities that you can get into, get in touch with other people, organize events within your college, which will also open up different networking opportunities for you. And probably also get into sports, because recreational activities is a necessity. It helps you balance things. And then, yeah, most of it really is something that, you shouldn't really be taking your college or all the opportunities that comes to you for granted during university. But along with that, if I had to talk about what other skills or how people should really prepare themselves, I think it's also being aware of all the kind of developments that is happening in the society when it comes to different industries, and also the kind of opportunities. A lot of industries which weren't really booming a few years back is on the verge of booming and will probably be the next big thing in the society tomorrow. So be aware of what is happening, but also be mindful, because I see a lot of people today, like youngsters, who really think that, it's very easy of getting an opportunity, what they see online, and they're always like, okay, probably, there's a lot of mindless scrolling that happens today, and they're so influenced by it that, they think they can do everything that they see somebody else doing it, which is really not the truth or the reality. So people really need to be mindful along with being aware of what is happening in the society.
I think so. That makes me add one more point to this is I think patience and perseverance, because I think looking at the tolerance level of youngsters today kind of scares me a little bit. They need to understand that the real world is going to eat you up, and if you don't have patience, you won't survive it in any profession, not just law. And office politics is a real thing. I would be wrong if I said it doesn't exist. It does exist in every form between two individuals or a group of people. But I'm not saying you have to tolerate what is wrong. But a little bit of here and there is there because it's always your testing period until I think you make your ground there. And youngsters often, example, they join internships and they want to leave because it's too much of hard work. And if they can't do that, if you have a real job, you can't leave every job and shift because you don't like how your peers or your colleagues are, or because the work on you is too much. So I think patience is something we don't talk about very often, and I think this is lacking in today's generation, and I really think this is something they must consider.
And also about, I think critical thinking is a key element too, because a lot of people today, they do not realize that what you think you can do is something that you can really do or perceive. There's a way that you need to do certain things, and you need to be able to, do it in that particular way. You can't just try to find a escape route to like be able to like achieve it.
And a point adding to what Priyanka said, that like she mentioned, hard work is very important. I understand the importance of work-life balance, the whole movement of where people are realizing that they need to have a healthy lifestyle. But at the same time, I would advise students to not shy away from hard work. Have your personal life, take care of your health, but shying away from hard work is not going to help you with your career.
I was talking to one of my seniors who was a judge, and we were talking about the work pressure there, and he told me that, okay, as a lawyer, you have, let's say, 20 different clients. Each of one has their own problem, and each of their problem, they think that you should have as your problem. And then a judge is listening to 40, 50 lawyers a day. So all those problems are now piling on the judge. And that creates a lot of pressure on the system, on the judicial system, on the lawyers. And it's very important to learn. And that's why I told you that one of the courses that we have worked on, we have introduced, that is time and stress management, because we believe that for a long career, if you want to have a long career, you need to be able to manage time on one hand and the stress on the other.
That just reminds me how stressful my father was when I told him I wanted to get into criminal litigation initially.
He's like, you won't be able to take it.
Very true. And then when you talk about critical thinking, I believe that whenever like AI takes over a lot of things, few things that it will not be able to do is think critically at this standpoint. And lawyers, therefore, there's some people who are trained in critical thinking. That is like the most important part of their profession. And because of the training of being able to think critically, whatever surprises the world throws at them, they are ready. They they're equipped to come on top of that.
And that's the same thing with creativity as well, because today I see a lot of them are adapting to using technology for their benefit of enhancing their creativity, but that is not completely taking over the creative fields. So I think that is what is probably going to happen.
And that is another thing that law teaches you as well, being creative.
Yep.
Right, because every problem that you encounter is a new problem, and therefore when you solve them, you have to be very creative. Okay, so on this point, we have come to the end of this podcast. I want to thank you all for being here and sharing your experience. It was such a nice conversation, right? Thank you so much. We'll see you all in the next podcast that we are going to have. Till then, thank you.